The world blurred around her as Lena raced down the street, her heart pounding in her chest. Her husband, Daniel, had been on his way home from work when the call came through. An accident. The words didn't make sense at first. Accident. The cold reality set in quickly as she rushed to the hospital, her mind struggling to keep up with the fear gripping her. The night air felt sharp against her skin as she stepped out of the cab and into the emergency room. She barely registered the sterile smell of antiseptic, her eyes scanning the area for any sign of him. A nurse approached her, her face somber. "Mrs. Daniels, I'm so sorry. Your husband's condition is critical. He was in a severe car crash. He's been stabilized, but..." Lena's throat tightened. "Where is he? Can I see him?" The nurse hesitated. "He's in the ICU. He's unconscious, but we don't know when he'll wake up. Please, wait here." Lena nodded, her legs feeling weak beneath her. She sank into a chair, clutching her hands together, her thoughts a jumble. The hospital seemed to close in on her, its walls pressing in, but she couldn't look away from the door. Every moment felt like an eternity. Hours passed, the hands of the clock ticking too slowly. She barely registered the passage of time, her eyes never leaving the door. It wasn't until the doctor entered that she stood up, her stomach turning with dread. "Mrs. Daniels," the doctor began, his voice gentle but firm. "Your husband is in a medically induced coma. We need to keep him under observation for now. It's too early to say what kind of recovery he'll have." Lena nodded, trying to keep her emotions in check. She wasn't prepared for this. Her husband, the man she had built her life with, lay in a hospital bed, fighting for his life, and she had no idea if he would wake up the same. "I need to see him," she said, her voice steady despite the overwhelming fear inside. The doctor led her down the corridor to the ICU, stopping at a door where she could see Daniel's still form. He was hooked up to machines, and the steady beeping of the heart monitor was the only sound in the room. Lena sat by his side, her hand gently resting on his. She whispered to him softly, telling him about the mundane events of the day, about how she'd missed him, how she hoped he'd be okay. But as the hours stretched on, she couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. Something about this didn't feel right. She stayed the night in the chair beside him, her eyes half closed in exhaustion, but her thoughts never strayed far from the accident. Why had it happened? Was it just an unfortunate event or something more? Then, in the quiet of the early morning, something stirred. Daniel's fingers twitched, and Lena's heart skipped a beat. She leaned forward, watching as his eyes slowly fluttered open. But when they focused on her, they held no recognition. His voice was weak, almost a whisper. Where is she?" Lena froze, the words hitting her like a blow to the chest. "Where is she?" He didn't recognize her. "Daniel?" Her voice trembled, trying to make sense of the situation. "It's me, Lena, your wife." His eyes shifted, confusion evident in his gaze. "Lena?" "No. I need to see her. Where is she?" Lena's breath caught in her throat. His mind was still lost, wandering. The woman he was asking for wasn't her. He was asking for someone else. Who are you talking about?" she whispered, her mind racing. Why was he asking for another woman? Had he forgotten her so completely? But the only answer he gave was a faint, empty stare. Lena's hand trembled as she held his, the warmth of his skin a stark contrast to the icy feeling settling in her chest. She had always known their love was strong, but this was something she hadn't prepared for. The man she married, the man she had built a life with, was asking for another woman. He didn't even recognize her. "Daniel," she whispered again, this time louder, trying to bring him back to her. "It's me, your wife, Lena." His eyes searched hers, a flicker of confusion crossing his features, but still, no recognition. He closed his eyes for a moment, as though trying to summon something from the depths of his mind, but when his gaze returned to hers, it was distant, as if she were a stranger standing at his bedside. I don't know you," he murmured, his voice hoarse and fragile. "But I need to see her. Please, where is she?" Lena's heart clenched painfully in her chest. She had no idea who she was. The woman his mind clung to. The one whose name he kept repeating like a prayer. She tried to steady her breathing, fighting the panic rising in her throat. The nurse reappeared, sensing the tension in the air. "Mrs. Daniels, he's likely experiencing confusion due to the trauma. It's not uncommon for patients to have memory gaps after a head injury." Lena nodded mechanically, though the words didn't come for her. How could he forget her so completely? How could his mind latch onto a person who wasn't even in the room? "Is there any chance this memory loss will get better?" she asked, struggling to keep her voice steady. "We're hopeful, but it will take time," the nurse replied, her tone professional yet soft. "He's still in a fragile state. Please, try not to overwhelm him." Lena nodded, though she barely heard the nurse's words. She couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. Her thoughts swirled like a storm, crashing against her with no clear answers. She sat there for hours, talking to Daniel, trying to jog his memory, but each time he would ask for the same woman, and each time her heart would crack a little more. The next day, Lena arrived early at the hospital, hoping that the fog of confusion would lift from Daniel's mind. But as she entered his room, she found him staring out the window, as though lost in thought. "Good morning," she said softly, sitting down beside him. "How are you feeling today?" He glanced at her, but again, his expression was one of blank uncertainty. His eyes drifted over her face, but there was no spark of recognition. "Is she coming?" he asked, his voice quiet but desperate. "Who?" Lena's throat tightened. "Who are you asking for, Daniel?" His gaze faltered for a moment. I don't know her name, but she was important to me." Lena felt a pang of jealousy that she could not suppress. Who is this woman? Why was she so important that Daniel's mind, broken and confused as it was, held on to her so desperately? The doctor arrived just then, breaking the silence. "Good morning, Mrs. Daniels. How's he doing?" Lena gave a tight smile, masking the storm inside. "He's asking for someone. A woman. I don't know who she is." The doctor's expression softened. "This is a common symptom of memory loss. The brain often latches onto certain memories, people, or emotions that feel significant, even if they're not immediately clear." Lena nodded, though the explanation did little to ease her fears. Her husband's memories of their life together had been wiped away, replaced with a mystery woman she couldn't even identify. "Is there anything I can do?" she asked, her voice breaking slightly. The doctor looked at her with sympathy. "For now, give him time. His memory may return in pieces. It could take weeks or even months for his mind to heal fully. Or it could never come back," Lena whispered to herself, the thought settling like a cold weight in her stomach. The days stretched into an agonizing blur. Daniel's memory remained fragmented, and every time he woke, he asked for the same woman. Lena began to feel like a ghost in her own marriage, watching him from the sidelines, desperately hoping to be remembered. She decided to investigate. If this woman was so important to him, then Lena had to know who she was. Maybe she could help him recover, or at least understand why his mind had clung to her image. The first step was to speak to his family, but they were just as confused as she was. Daniel had never mentioned anyone significant before her. His parents were distant, his siblings distant, but no one seemed to know anything about this mysterious woman. Lena's frustration grew, the answers slipping further from her grasp with every passing day. But she couldn't give up. If this woman was the key to Daniel's recovery, then Lena needed to find her. She needed to know if the woman was a part of his past, a lover, or someone else entirely. But the deeper Lena dug, the more questions arose. She couldn't shake the nagging feeling that there was something else at play here, something bigger than just a simple case of memory loss. As the days turned into weeks, Lena found herself unraveling a mystery that threatened to consume everything she thought she knew about her husband and their marriage. Lena couldn't help but feel like she was drowning in a sea of questions, each one more pressing than the last. Daniel's memory loss was just the beginning of a much bigger puzzle, and every time she thought she was close to an answer, the pieces seemed to slip away, leaving her with nothing but more confusion. Determined not to be left in the dark, Lena began to investigate in earnest. She started by going through Daniel's personal belongings, hoping to find something, anything, that might offer a clue about the mysterious woman he kept asking for. His phone was a goldmine of information, but it also proved to be more frustrating than helpful. There were no photos of this woman, no text messages, nothing. His recent calls were all to her, Lena, but there were no hidden conversations, no cryptic messages from anyone else. It was as if the woman had never existed, or at least not in any place that could be tracked. The more Lena dug, the more she felt the distance between her and Daniel widening. She had once been the most important person in his life, his confidant, his partner. But now, she was just a shadow in the background, competing with someone she couldn't even identify. The hospital visits had become routine. Lena would sit by his side, talking to him, trying to jog his memory, but he never seemed to remember anything about their life together. He looked at her with eyes that were both familiar and foreign at the same time. "I still don't know you," he would say, his voice distant, before asking once again, "Where is she?" The pain was unbearable, but Lena pushed it down. If she didn't, she feared she would break. One evening, after another fruitless search through Daniel's things, Lena found herself sitting at their kitchen table, staring blankly at the wall. The house felt emptier now, as if Daniel's absence had hollowed out their home. She tried to focus on the task at hand, but the emptiness settled into her bones. What was she even looking for? A name? A clue? Something that could help her bring her husband back to her? Her thoughts were interrupted by a sudden knock on the door. Startled, Lena stood up and moved toward it, her hand pausing on the handle as she wondered who could be calling at this hour. When she opened the door, she was met with a woman she didn't recognize, tall, with dark hair and striking features that seemed too familiar for comfort. The woman wore an air of calm authority, but there was something unsettling about her presence. "Are you Mrs. Daniels?" she asked, her voice smooth and composed. Lena nodded, her heart racing. "Yes, I am. Who are you?" The woman hesitated for a moment, then gave a small, almost imperceptible smile. "My name is Lena. I knew Daniel." The name hit Lena like a punch to the stomach. Lena. It was the name Daniel had been whispering in his sleep for weeks. She felt her pulse quicken as she tried to mask the shock and confusion on her face. Lena began, but her words caught in her throat. "What do you mean, you knew Daniel?" Elena's smile faded, her expression turning somber. "I'm afraid it's a long story, but I believe we need to talk. It's important." Lena opened the door wider, motioning for the woman to come in. She couldn't turn her away now, not after hearing that name, not after the flood of emotions it stirred in her. As they sat down in the living room, Lena wasted no time getting to the point. "I was a part of Daniel's life a long time ago," Lena explained, her gaze steady but filled with sadness. "We were close, very close, in fact. But I left. I left him because of a promise I made. And I didn't know how to come back until now." Lena felt her heart drop. A promise? What kind of promise could be so important that it made this woman disappear from Daniel's life? Why was she back now? And most importantly, why had Daniel been asking for her when he woke up? "I don't understand," Lena said, her voice trembling. "Why is he asking for you? He doesn't remember anything about me, about us, but he keeps asking for you. What happened between the two of you?" Elena's expression softened, but there was a heavy weight behind her words. "There's something you need to know, Lena. Daniel and we were supposed to be together. But I had to leave. It wasn't just a choice, it was a matter of survival. You see, Daniel's life was in danger. And the only way to protect him was for me to walk away." Lena's mind was spinning. This woman, Lena, seemed to know everything about Daniel's past, things that Lena had never known. And now, she was here, in the middle of the storm that was Daniel's memory loss. "I don't understand," Lena whispered. "If you loved him, why didn't you come back sooner? Why now?" Elena's eyes clouded with pain, and she hesitated before answering. "Because I couldn't. But now things have changed. And I think it's time for him to know the truth." Lena's hands clenched into fists in her lap. The truth. What truth? Was Daniel's memory lost part of some grand plan? Was Elena part of that plan? What was going on? I don't know what's going on here, Lena said, her voice rising with frustration. But I need to know everything. Daniel needs to remember me, not you. He's my husband. Elena's gaze softened, almost pitying. I'm not here to take him from you, Lena. I need you to understand that he's not the man you think he is. He's carrying secrets, secrets that go beyond anything you can imagine. Lena felt her chest tighten, the words almost suffocating her. Secrets, she echoed. What kind of secrets? Elena took a deep breath, as though preparing to reveal something monumental. The accident, it wasn't just an accident. Someone wanted him gone, and that someone is still out there. The reason he's asking for me is because I'm the key to unlocking everything. If he doesn't remember me, he won't survive what's coming next. Lena's mind was reeling, her pulse pounding in her ears. What was Elena talking about? And why had she waited until now to reveal this? The woman who had been so important to Daniel, the one whose name had haunted his unconscious mind, was now offering cryptic warnings and promises of truths that Lena could barely begin to comprehend. The storm inside her heart only grew stronger. She had to find out what Elena knew. And more importantly, she had to find out what happened to her husband, and why his memories of her, his wife, had been erased in favor of another woman. Lena sat across from Elena, her mind whirling with the new, unsettling revelations. The woman sitting in front of her was not just a figure from Daniel's past. She was the very reason he had lost his memory. Or, at least, that was what Elena was implying. The weight of her words pressed heavily on Lena's chest. She had always believed their marriage was strong, built on trust and love, but now it felt like the foundation beneath her was crumbling. I'm not here to steal him from you, Elena said again, her voice calm, but there was a flicker of urgency in her eyes. I promise you, I never wanted to cause you pain. But you need to understand, this isn't just about him losing his memory. It's about a dangerous game that's been played behind his back, one that involves forces beyond what either of us can control. Lena's hands clenched into fists, her nails digging into her palms as she fought to keep her emotions in check. Dangerous game? It sounded like something out of a thriller, not the life she thought she was living. You said you left him to protect him, Lena finally managed to say, her voice barely above a whisper. But why now? Why, after all this time, after everything he's been through, are you coming back into his life? Elena looked at her, her face shadowed with regret. Because the threat to his life is still out there. It never stopped, Lena. And now that he's been in that accident, his memories are fractured, and the people who want him gone think he's vulnerable. They think they have a chance to finish what they started. Lena's breath caught in her throat. What did she mean by that? A chill ran down her spine as she tried to digest the implications of Elena's words. Daniel wasn't just a man who had lost his memories. He was the target of some kind of conspiracy. And the accident, the one that had put him in this hospital bed, was not a random event. It was part of something much bigger. You said Daniel doesn't remember you because you're the key to unlocking everything, Lena pressed, trying to make sense of the puzzle. But if he doesn't remember you, how can you help him? What is it that you know about his past that he doesn't? Elena's eyes flickered to the side, as though debating whether to tell Lena more. But after a long, tense silence, she finally spoke. I don't have all the answers, Elena admitted. But I do know that Daniel's past is more complicated than he ever let on. He wasn't just some businessman, Lena. He was involved in something much darker, something dangerous. And Elena hesitated, her gaze hardening. I was a part of it. But I couldn't keep him safe if I stayed. I had to walk away. And the people who were after him, they won't stop until they get what they want. Lena felt like she had just been hit with a ton of bricks. Her mind raced as she tried to piece together what Elena was saying. Daniel, the man she loved, wasn't just a victim of a car accident. He was the victim of something far more sinister, something that had been haunting him long before their lives had collided. Why didn't you tell me this before? Lena demanded, her voice sharp with frustration. If you knew something was going on, why didn't you come to me sooner? Elena's face darkened, and she looked away, as if the question pained her. Because I didn't know who I could trust, she said quietly. I couldn't risk putting him in even more danger. And I thought if I stayed away long enough, the threat would fade. But it didn't. Lena absorbed her words, the weight of the situation sinking in. She had always thought her marriage to Daniel was built on honesty, but now she realized how little she knew about the man she had married. How had he kept all of this from her? How could he have hidden such a dangerous past? Suddenly, the door to the living room opened, and Daniel's voice broke through the tension, weak but recognizable. Lena, he called out, his voice fragile. Lena's heart jumped, and she quickly stood, rushing to the door. Daniel, she called back, a mixture of hope and fear rising within her. He was sitting in a chair in the hallway, looking lost and confused, his eyes flicking between Lena and Elena. He seemed to struggle for a moment, as though trying to remember something important. Elena, he whispered, his voice trembling. Lena's heart sank. He remembered her. But it wasn't Lena. It was Elena. Daniel, it's me, Lena said softly, walking closer to him. I'm your wife, Lena. Daniel blinked, his eyes glazing over as if trying to piece together the fragments of his scattered memories. But then, his gaze shifted back to Elena, and for a moment, it was like Lena wasn't even there. I don't understand, he said, his voice full of confusion. I'm sorry. I don't know who you are. Lena stood frozen, her chest tightening with a sharp sting of rejection. She wanted to reach out to him, to tell him everything would be okay, but it felt like he was slipping away from her, becoming someone else's. Daniel, Elena said gently, stepping forward. You don't remember everything yet. But I'm here now. I'm not going anywhere. Lena could feel the sting of jealousy rise up inside her, sharp and cold. Elena had been a part of Daniel's life in ways Lena couldn't understand, and it was clear that his bond with her was far more complicated than Lena had ever imagined. She looked at Daniel, trying to read the confusion in his eyes. What was he feeling? Was he even aware of the impact his memory loss was having on her? I want to remember, Daniel said, his voice weak and desperate. I want to remember you, Lena. But I can't, and I don't know why. Lena's heart broke for him. This wasn't his fault. He wasn't the one who had chosen to forget her. It was as if his memories were trapped in a maze, and the way out was blocked by a shadowy past that neither of them fully understood. She turned to Elena, her voice shaking with a mix of pain and resolve. You need to tell me everything. About Daniel, about his past, and about you. I can't help him if I don't know the truth. Elena nodded slowly, as if she had been expecting this moment. You deserve to know, she said quietly. And I promise you, Lena, I'm not here to take him from you. I'm here to help you both, because if we don't figure this out soon, it might be too late for him. Lena swallowed the lump in her throat, steeling herself for whatever came next. She had no idea what the truth was, but one thing was clear. She couldn't fight this battle alone. She had to uncover the past, find the woman who haunted Daniel's memory, and face whatever dark forces were still lurking in the shadows. And maybe, just maybe, she could bring her husband back to her. The days that followed were a blur of doctor visits, fragmented conversations, and endless hours spent beside Daniel's hospital bed. His memory was still fragmented, pieces of his past drifting in and out of focus like half-formed dreams. Each time Lena looked into his eyes, she saw the man she loved, and yet, he felt distant, unreachable. Elena stayed close, offering support, but her presence only made Lena feel like an outsider in her own marriage. She hated the way Daniel's gaze lingered on Elena, the unspoken bond between them that Lena couldn't decipher. One evening, Lena sat alone in the hospital room, her fingers nervously tapping the edge of the bed. She had asked the doctors for every possible test, every scan, hoping for a miracle. But the answers were always the same. His memory would come back in time, or it wouldn't. Daniel stirred, his eyes flicking open. Lena, he whispered, his voice hoarse. He looked confused, but there was a glimmer of recognition in his eyes. You're still here. Lena's heart leapt. He remembers me? I'm here, she said softly, brushing a lock of hair from his forehead. I'm not going anywhere, Daniel. He studied her for a long moment, as if searching for something in her face. I'm sorry. I don't want to hurt you, he whispered. I don't know what's real anymore. Lena clenched her fists to keep from breaking down. You'll get through this, Daniel. We'll get through this together. But as she sat there, holding his hand, she couldn't shake the feeling that something was still missing. Elena's words echoed in her mind. The danger isn't over yet. There was something more to Daniel's memory loss than just an accident. The past wasn't finished with them yet. And Lena knew, deep down, that uncovering the truth would be the only way to heal both their hearts. Daniel's recovery was slow, his memories returning in fragments, some familiar, some completely foreign. But the worst part? The memories of Lena were sparse, like faded ink on an old page, while Elena remained a clear presence in his mind. Lena hid her pain, pretending it didn't hurt every time Daniel looked at her with uncertainty. She held on to hope, but doubt gnawed at her. Was their love strong enough to survive this? One evening, she found Elena outside the hospital, speaking in hushed tones to a man Lena didn't recognize. As she approached, the man quickly disappeared into the night. What aren't you telling me? Lena demanded, stepping in front of Elena. Elena hesitated before sighing. The accident wasn't random, Lena. Someone wanted Daniel dead. Lena's blood ran cold. Who? I don't know yet, Elena admitted. But the moment he remembers everything, he'll be in danger again. Lena clenched her fists. She had spent days trying to help Daniel regain his memory, but now she wasn't so sure. What if remembering put his life at risk? And worst of all, what if, when he finally remembered, she was no longer the woman he loved? Lena couldn't shake the unease settling in her chest. The accident, Daniel's memory loss, Elena's cryptic warnings, it all felt too connected. Someone wanted Daniel gone.
But why?
Back at the hospital, Daniel was staring out the window when Lena entered. His fingers absent-mindedly traced the 4-line in his arm, his expression distant. You look deep in thought, Lena said softly. Daniel turned to her, his brows knitting together. I remember something, he said hesitantly. It's not much, just flashes. A conversation, someone telling me I should leave before it's too late. Lena's heart pounded.
Who?
Do you remember their face? Daniel shook his head. Just a voice. But I remember feeling afraid. He exhaled sharply, rubbing his temples. And Elena, I remember her being there. Lena stiffened. Why was Elena always in his memories, but not me? Before she could respond, the door swung open. Elena stood there, her face pale. Lena, we need to talk. Now. Lena glanced at Daniel, then back at Elena. Whatever it is, say it here. Elena hesitated before speaking. I found something. The car crash wasn't an accident. She turned to Daniel. Someone tried to kill you, Daniel. And they might try again. Silence filled the room. Lena's grip on the chair tightened. Daniel ran a hand through his hair. Then we need to find out who and why. Lena swallowed hard, pushing aside the ache in her chest. She had spent weeks trying to help Daniel remember her, but now there was something far more dangerous at play. And she had a sinking feeling that the truth, when revealed, would change everything. Daniel's hands clenched into fists. If someone tried to kill me, then I need to know everything now. Elena hesitated before nodding. I've been digging into the accident. The brake lines in your car were cut, Daniel. Lena inhaled sharply. It wasn't just an accident, it was attempted murder. Daniel rubbed his temples, frustration clear on his face. So someone wanted me dead, but I don't know who. And I don't know why. Lena forced herself to focus. What do you remember about the days before the accident? Daniel shut his eyes. Nothing makes sense. I remember being followed. I remember a meeting with someone I didn't trust. He exhaled. And I remember feeling like I had to protect someone. Lena's pulse quickened. Protect who? Daniel's eyes flickered with uncertainty. I don't know, but I think it was you. Hope flickered in Lena's heart. Was she finally breaking through? Elena spoke up. If someone wanted you dead, they won't stop just because you survived. We need to figure this out before they try again. Lena turned to Daniel, determination hardening her resolve. Then we start digging. We find out what happened that night, and who wanted you gone. For the first time since waking up, Daniel reached for her hand. His grip was weak, but steady. I trust you, Lena, he said softly. Her chest tightened. He didn't remember loving her. But at least, for now, he trusted her. And she would fight to keep him safe, even if the truth shattered everything. Lena barely slept that night. Every time she closed her eyes, questions swirled in her mind. Who had wanted Daniel dead? And why did he keep remembering Elena, but not her? The next morning, she met Elena in a quiet corner of the hospital. We need to find out who he was meeting before the accident, Lena said. Maybe that's the key. Elena nodded. I made some calls. Daniel had a business meeting the night before the crash. Off the record. And guess what? The man he met with hasn't been seen since. Lena's stomach dropped. You think this man was involved? I think it's too much of a coincidence to ignore, Elena said grimly. Before they could discuss further, Daniel appeared in the doorway, looking more focused than he had in days. I want to go to the crash site. Lena hesitated. Daniel, you're still recovering. I need to see it, he interrupted, his voice firm. Maybe it'll help me remember. An hour later, they stood at the site where his car had crashed. The wreckage was long gone, but the skid marks remained, a ghostly reminder of what had happened. Daniel stared at the road, his jaw tightening. I remember arguing with someone on the phone right before I lost control of the car. He closed his eyes, trying to grasp the memory. I was angry. They were threatening me. Lena stepped closer. Threatening you about what? Daniel's breath hitched. Then suddenly his eyes snapped open. I wasn't the target, he whispered. Lena's blood ran cold. What do you mean? He turned to her, his expression filled with dread. They weren't trying to kill me, Lena. They were trying to kill you. Lena felt the ground shift beneath her. Me, she whispered. That doesn't make sense. Daniel gripped her arms, his breathing uneven. I remember now. The night before the accident, I met with someone who warned me that you were in danger. Elena paled. Who was it? Daniel shook his head. I don't know his name, but he said someone was after Lena. I was supposed to take her and leave the country. His expression darkened. But I refused. I told them I wouldn't run without knowing who was after her. Lena's heart pounded. And then the crash happened. Daniel's eyes were filled with fury. They couldn't get to you, so they went after me instead. A cold realization settled over Lena. Who would want me dead? Elena exchanged a look with Daniel. We need to go back through your past, Lena.
Think.
Did you cross anyone? See something you weren't supposed to? Lena struggled to think, but nothing made sense. She lived an ordinary life, nothing that warranted someone wanting her dead. Daniel clenched his fists. Whoever it is, they think I don't remember.
His jaw tightened.
That's our advantage. Elena nodded. If they believe you're still confused, they won't make a move yet. We can use that. Lena looked at Daniel. His memories weren't fully back, but there was one thing he was certain of. He had risked everything to protect her. And now, she would do whatever it took to uncover the truth, even if it meant facing the enemy herself. Lena's heart pounded as she and Daniel retraced his final steps before the accident. They searched through his emails, phone records, anything that could reveal who had warned him. Then they found it. An unsent message in Daniel's phone drafts. Lena, if anything happens to me, trust no one, not even the ones closest to you. The danger is inside our circle. Be careful. Lena's breath caught. Someone close to them? Daniel clenched his jaw. This means the person behind this is someone we know. A sudden knock at the door made them both freeze. Elena entered, her face grim. I found the name of the man Daniel met that night, Eric Lawson. Lena frowned. Who is he? Daniel's expression darkened. He used to work for my company. I fired him months ago for fraud. Elena handed over a file. And after you fired him, he joined forces with someone else, your business partner, Adam. Lena gasped. Adam? But he was your friend. Daniel's face hardened.
No.
He wasn't. Everything clicked into place. Adam had set up the accident, using Eric as a middleman. But when Daniel survived, they must have gone silent, waiting for the right moment to strike again. "We need proof," Lena said. Elena smirked. "Already got it." She held up a USB drive. Adam paid Eric through an offshore account. "The records are all here." Daniel exhaled sharply. "Then it's over." That night, Adam was arrested. The truth was finally out. But as Lena stood beside Daniel, she realized something even more important. He had chosen to protect her, even when his memories were gone. And now, as he looked at her with clarity in his eyes, she knew. Daniel finally remembered. "Lena," he whispered, taking her hand. "It's always been you." Tears filled her eyes as she smiled. No matter what they had lost, they had found their way back to each other. And this time, nothing would take that away.